clouds look thick enough to walk on. From up here, the clouds look thick enough to walk on, wrote Manus in a letter to his little sister. She was at a convent school outside Belfast, studying for her A-levels. He was on a plane from Morocco, smuggling hash. The businessman sitting next to him wore a suit, shirt and tie, as did Manus, but the businessman looked a lot more comfortable in his. Manus had never owned a suit. He had borrowed this one and cut his hair to look straight for the job. The idea of wearing a suit kind of tickled him too, like dressing up as the enemy. Manus wasn't much on the nuances of world politics. He knew the planet was dominated by a few corpos, and their media indoctrinated the people not to care. He didn't know how to fight them, but he did know he hated them, and their acolytes wore suits. The suit sat next to him talked over whiskies of having had a great time in Cassablanca. He boasted of having sex with young children. Manus wondered what kind of a world this line of conversation was acceptable in. The business world, thought Manus, and said nothing. On Manus's first night in Cassablanca, after escaping the hassles of the street and making it to the relative safety of a bar, he had ordered 2 beers, one for his Dutch colleague and one for himself. The barmaid asked if he would buy her a beer, and Manus said he would, whereupon the lady had come out from behind the bar and started rubbing the crotch of his jeans with the change. The phrase, "an innocent abroad," wouldn't cover it. Manus had experienced violence and drugs in hard and heavy doses, but when it came to sex, he was all but a virgin, and totally terrified. With the barmaid's hands rubbing his crotch, Manus had frozen, body rigid, penis limp, and had it not been for his superior Dutch colleague going off to do the necessary business with the lady, the name of the white man might have been forever smeared in that small calf in the centre of Cassablanca. In the event, Manus had spent the rest of the night trying to persuade the boy who sold him some smoke that he did not want to buy his sister, no matter how pure, young and innocent she was. Cassablanca was a poor, dirty, industrial city, with all the displays of domination and violence that accompany such places. Like Glasgow with palm trees is how Manus would remember Cassablanca in the 70s. The businessman sitting next to him on the plane showed Manus pictures of his family. 2 little blonde-haired daughters, and his wife was also beautiful. She was to pick her husband up at the airport, and he offered Manus a lift. Manus declined the offer, saying he was to be picked up by his eldest sister. The truth was, Manus was to be picked up by the man who had hired him, and who was to pay him on delivery of the suitcase. At Schiphol Airport, Manus collected his suitcase and walked towards customs. Some few yards ahead of him, he spotted his superior Dutch colleague. Although they had both travelled on the same flight, they had sat separately for security reasons and made no contact. The blood drained from Manus's face as he watched 2 plainclothes policemen step in front of the Dutchman and direct him into a small cubicle. Manus continued walking. There was a 3rd policeman who stood outside the cubicle, searching through the crowd with his eyes. Manus walked straight up to the 3rd policeman and asked the time. Irritated with the disturbance and his surveillance, he glanced at his watch and spoke the time. Manus walked on across the airport floor with the suitcase still in hand. It was such a large suitcase, 2 feet wide and 4 feet high, built of canvas and covered with a thin coat of plastic. No one stopped him as he walked across the floor towards the airport's sliding doors. It seemed surreal to him, like he had a detached view of his tiny figure draped in an overlarge borrowed suit, carrying this enormous suitcase. The thought entered his consciousness that the whole scene was rather like a Hitchcock movie, and if, for any reason, when he stood on the mat in front of the sliding doors, the doors got stuck and did not open, then the movie would come to an abrupt halt. The suitcase could get lost, and the borrowed suit buried, along with the tiny figure which would undoubtedly drop dead from the fright. He stood on the mat, the doors opened, and Manus walked out.